Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montevilla Sewing Center, and today we're talking about the Juki DX-2000 QVP. In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of this machine. So to start with, we have where you plug in your power, where you plug in your foot control, and then you have your on-off switch right here, and here is your hand wheel. Now in back here, we have this nice spool pin for your larger spools like this. So you can put that on there, and then you would use this little tree here. But before I open the door, I want to tell you about this here. This is your presser foot pressure dial. Usually you want to have it on 5, and that's how tightly it pushes against your fabric. But if you had like a sweater knit, you may want to reduce this down to a lower setting. Okay, so for our bigger spools, you have this extra thread tree, and you can extend it all the way up like that, and will help with your big spools of thread, like if you're doing free motion quilting or something like that. But for regular sewing, we don't need to have this here. Okay, so this is your stitch chart right here. It's really handy to have. You can see what stitches are available in the various different categories. And then here is where you wind your bobbin. Now this is the actual switch. So if I go like this, you can see it's starting to wind. And once the bobbin gets full, the thread will push back against this. So this, and then this is a little cutter. So once you're done winding your bobbin, you can cut your thread right here without having to search for your scissors. Here we have a threading guide for doing the bobbin winding. Here we have thread guides, more thread guides here. Now up here, you have your tension for your upper thread. So you can, now auto is kind of like your presser foot pressure. Auto is your standard, you most of the time want to keep it that way. But sometimes, let's say you have a thicker thread here, thinner thread at the bobbin, then you may want to loosen this a little bit. Okay, then we go down here, more thread guides. On the side here, you have the lever for threading your needle. It's a really nice needle threader, makes needle threading just a breeze. Then on the side here, you have a jack to plug in your buttonhole foot. And that's a different video about how to do buttonholes, but that's where you'd plug it in right there. Then you have a thread cutter, so once you're done sewing, you can cut your threads right here. Then we have the accessory tray. It's a really nice accessory tray with a place to put different feet and a little storage accessory underneath it. Place for that. And then when you pull this off, oh, also notice a ruler right here, really handy. Pull this off here, and now you have a free arm, which is really nice for doing your jeans hems and things like that. Now, okay, so this is where you would lower your feed dogs. I'm going to take the foot off. It's a quick release lever right there. When you push this to the right, notice the feed dogs go down. So that's like if you were going to do free motion quilting, you'd lower your feed dogs there. To make them come back up, go like this and roll your hand wheel, one stitch, and you hear a little click and they come back up. Now I rolled my hand wheel. I could have also done the needle up, needle down button as long as I had my presser foot down. But I'm going to put the presser foot back on. Now the quick change presser feet, the way I put them back on is I hold it front and back like this, move the threads out of the way, and I line up the stitch hole in the presser foot with the stitch hole on the needle plate like that. Lower my presser foot and it's on. Really nice feature that way. Then we have the needle plate with the markings for various seam allowances. Here's your 5/8 inch line right there. And then this is the area where you put in your bobbin. Now this little switch right here, I'm going to take the foot back off and show you what that does. Let's say you have a really slinky fabric like a knit that tends to get, every time you sew, it tends to kind of get pushed down into the needle plate. Well, you can make your needle plate a single hole needle plate by pushing this little lever to the left. And see how that does that? Now in this case, we'd want to rethread our bobbin thread so it comes up through that plate. So you want to engage that first and then start sewing. But you're thinking probably single hole. Oh no, what if I do a zigzag? Well, your machine is not going to let you do a zigzag. you actually cannot select zigzag. It gives that little warning beep. It sounds a little bit like a cricket chirp, but you can do single stitches. See how that sounds? It just limits you. So there's no danger in having that single hole. It just means that you can't do a zigzag. If you want to disengage that, just push it slightly away from you and to the right, and it puts it back to now you can do zigzag and the other decorative stitches. Okay, put that back on there like that. Put this back on here like this. We got a little bit extra lift. Now this is the presser foot lever in the back here. You got a little extra lift if you need to. We also have a presser foot raise and lower button right up here. Now once you use this, the presser foot lifter lever is disengaged, but if you lift it a little bit higher, now you can use it again. Another thing is this right here. This is the presser, knee lifter is what it's called. It's an accessory that comes with your machine, and it gives you a hands-free ability to raise and lower your presser foot. Okay, this is your start-stop button. Now when you have your presser foot up, you cannot sew. So if you start sewing, it's not going to work. This start-stop button will only work if you have your foot control disconnected. But it's a nice feature to have. Say if you're doing a whole bunch of buttonholes, you can just press this button, it will sew to the end of the buttonhole and stop. So that's a nice feature to have. Then we have our reverse button, so you can put a reverse stitch at the beginning and ending of your seam. This is your locking stitch button, and when you press this, it does a locking stitch. It's kind of like ties a little knot at the end in the beginning of your seam. This is your speed control, and this is going to govern how fast, what the maximum speed that you can sew. It's a really nice feature when you're doing something like applique and you want to be really careful as you're going around here to get it just right. You can slow this down a little bit. Same thing for free motion quilting. When I do free motion quilting, I usually like to have it at third or half speed, so that way I don't have to worry about pushing too hard on the foot control and going too fast. So, but for normal sewing, I just put it right up to the full speed. This is our thread cutter, and what this does is at the end of sewing, when you're done sewing, you push this button and it cuts your thread. Now, we want to make sure that you're doing that when you're actually done some sewing and not just randomly, like I wouldn't want to do it right now. This is your needle up, needle down button. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So needle down, push that, needle up, push it again. What this does is it makes sure that the needle is all the way up rather than just relying on your hand wheel to make sure it's all the way up. If you do this, it makes sure it's all the way up or all the way down. Okay, got my thread right there. And this, of course, I already talked about that presser foot up, presser foot down. Now over here is your operations panel, and I'm going to get into more of that in a future video because there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of great features and great settings that you can do on this. But to start with, let me just tell you, these are your width and length buttons, or knob. This knob adjusts how much of a bite the feed dogs take on each stitch. And this knob, if you look here for a straight stitch, see how you can move your needle one side or the other. And in the case of a zigzag, you can make your zigzag wider or narrower with that. Also, if you have changed these, the little frame around them means that you're not in the default for that stitch. If I want to go to default for zigzag, just reselect the stitch. And notice I'm just using my finger to press these buttons here. So that's the overview on the Juki Quilt Virtuoso Pro. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If this has been helpful, give us a thumbs up. And there are lots of other videos that we have on our Montevilla YouTube channel, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Bye.